me find his name spelled Unas. Okay, who would like to read the summary? My sister.
In the myth, a seer, a wise, peaceful herald, is murdered by his jealous brother Set. A seer's wife, Aset, and their twin sister, Nebuchad, search for his body and resurrected with the aid of Anpu, a guardian of the entity. Aset transports the seer's body and hides it in a forest. Set unexpectedly comes upon the corpse and rips it into 14 pieces, which he scatters throughout Kemet. Set recovers all but one of these, causes them to be reconstituted, and posthumously conceives a son with a seer. When the son, Eru, grows to maturity, he exacts revenge by defeating his uncle in battle and inheriting the throne. A seer. A seer then descends into the underworld where, reinvigorated, he becomes the judge of the dead. The narrative begins at the birth of time when the Neteru and the world came into being, a period that the Remench referred to as Septet, the first time.
All right. Another note, I'll get to Anpu and his name and his role later, but 14 pieces. You know, whenever you have a number in the ancient text, they usually are significant. And
Is that number is like
disputed?
disputed?
I think 14, I think
It's
is
a pretty well
yeah,
accepted.
number. And I'll read a quote from Plutarch's Isis and Osiris, and what his commentary is on the 14 pieces. It says that some say the years of Osiris's life, others that the years of his reign were 28. For that is the number of the moon's illumination. You know, a complete lunar cycle is 28 days. and in that number of days does she complete her cycle. The wood which they cut on the occasion, called the burials of Osiris or Osar, they fashioned into a crescent-shaped coffer because of the fact that the moon, when it comes near the sun, becomes crescent-shaped and disappears from our sight. Dismemberment of Asar into 14 parts, they refer allegorically to the days of the waning of that satellite from the time of the full moon to the new moon. So it's half of 14 means the waning half of the cycle, and it's a reference to that. And the day on which she becomes visible after escaping the solar rays and passing by the sun, they style incomplete good, for Asar is beneficent, and his name means many things, but not least of all an active and beneficent power, as they put it. The other name of the god, Omphis, Hermes says means benefactor when interpreted. Okay? So, when like I said, when in our ancient narrative, it's not just one thing, and with mythology and with symbolism, there's many layers at once. It conveys, one of the main roles of mythology is to convey information and communicate knowledge in a manner that can be memorized by the masses. And then later on, as they memorize it and rehearse it or ritualize it on an annual and yearly basis, the meaning and the understanding will unfold to you. Okay? All right. So, now, let's go on. Beginning of the narrative, next paragraph. Who would like to read?
In the
Seth, and on the fifth day, Nevitt Het. The Rumich celebrated these 5 days as the birthdays of these netters. The birthdays of Asir and Seth were considered especially favorable, for it was said they had embraced in the womb. On the other hand, the birthday of Seth inspired great fear and anxiety, since it was said he had, with a violent blow, burst forth from his mother's womb at the wrong time and place. The people of Kemet were weary of this day, being careful not to take any food or conduct business until evening had arrived.
Okay.
As to the As to the fathers of these offspring, the first, Asir, was said to have been sired by Ra, Set by Jehudi, while Set and Nebahet had been fathered by Gad.
Okay. So in this section, it talks about the relationship between Geb and Nut and their offspring. So earth and sky, and it said that they were in union at one time, and they used the analogy of an intimate relationship between the two. But then later on, they were separated by Shu, who was hair. So this relates that there was during creation or during the course of evolution, that there had been a change, and it's similar to the account in the Bible when it says that there was a what's the term that they use? Firmament. There you go. A firmament that connected earth and sky. Before that was the firmament was released and the water drained into the earth, and therefore at that point air separated the two. And this is a similar account. That there was at one time when the earth was still forming and before it could settle, I guess there was an interaction or between the elements, more not quite as definite as we understand it today. All right.
But Gavin Newt created.
Geb and Nut created. The first account is that all of them, Asar, and then Set, and Nebuchadnezzar, and that they also, in this account, they include Horus the blind or Horus the elder. Horus the blind or Horus the elder is not the same as the son of Asar and Set. Okay, so we'll just put that in parentheses.
So essentially, one would think that Heru, the child, was named after his uncle. So
I would think or that during the course of the development of the narratives and of the religious spiritual tradition, that there was a blending or reconciling between different narratives.
But Newt was the mother of those
Yes.
entities
Right.
that were in the last 5 days of the year.
Yeah.
And so there's the mythology is that the last is 360 days, and then she conceived a different child each day, sired by a different father.
Wait, now say that one more time.
It's 360 days of the year go by.
Okay. Yeah.
On 361, she has child one, whichever.
Okay.
it
Oh
is.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
By
Okay.
one father, and on
And-
day
yeah, right.
362, she
Okay.
has child two
Oh.
by a different father.
Okay.
I mean, I know it's a
Yeah.
myth, but in
Yeah.
theory,
Yeah.
that's what they're
Yeah.
saying, right?
And also, it's interesting that their calendar system,
Yeah.
when it was originally 360 days, which most cycle, that this is, I think, maybe the earliest recognition that there were 365, and they accounted for that recognition by coming up with the 365-day account in the mythology. And then also later, that 365 and a fourth, I think comes into play later on, and I forget how that was accounted for, but they were on it more a lot earlier than modern day historians or paleontologists will give them credit for. Okay. All right. You see, we need to cover anything else on that, so everybody's up on. Okay, let's go on. Next paragraph. Who would like to read?
It happened that Asir became Kemet's first pharaoh. It was he who civilized Kemet by instituting land cultivation, the domestication of animals, civil laws, and the worship of Neteru. He later traveled throughout the known world, converting to his point of view all he met, without the use of force, but by winning them over through persuasion, poetry, and musical art.
Okay. Just a quick comment. So another word, in a word, what is Asar responsible for having instituted or developed in the world? Civilization. There you go. Thank you.
What did
Sorry,
they say?
what you say?
Civilization.
Yeah, period, that, all that.
Persuasion, poetry, and musical arts is civilization.
All those elements, I think, would be considered part of it. Land cultivation, agriculture, the domestication of animals, civil laws, spiritual worship, and then like you said, the culture, the arts, persuasion, poetry, and music arts. I would call all those elements of a civilization.
Yeah, and maybe even order and mayat.
Exactly.
Ma'at
Yeah,
came
yeah,
from
law's necessary.
right away.
But that's the foundation.
Right.
It said Ma'at was present when the mound arose out of Noon, and that Ma'at was present then. So you had to have that order, that natural, societal, communal law in place.
And so, Ma'at predates, Kepler.
Yeah, I would, that's a good question. I had to go back and compare the accounts, see who preceded who. But yeah, it does say flatly that that all of creation was built upon the foundation of mind. Okay. All right, where are we? While Asar was away, who's gonna, page
While
2?
Asar was away, his brother Seth, who jealously aspired to the throne, tried nothing subversive because Seth attended to the realm with great fairness, diligence, and diligence. However, upon Asar's return, Seth and 72 conspirators, including a Nubian queen named Esau, hatched a scheme by which he could succeed to the royal throne. Having acquired the measurements of Asir's body, Seth ordered the construction of a beautiful cast and announced that he would offer it as a gift to anyone whom it fit perfectly. He then arranged a banquet at which he had the highly ornamented coffin brought into the room and jokingly invited each guest to lay down in it. However, none of them found the chest to be an exact fit. When Asar took his turn, the plotters quickly shut the lid, sealed it, and set it adrift on the river Nile. Some say this act of trickery took place on the 28th year of Asar's reign. Others said it occurred on the 28th year of his life.
Right. Now,
So that's interesting.
yeah. Now, what does this story remind you of? Just the bare bones skeleton of this story. Which, have you seen this story before?
Moses.
It's Moses-y, but more current.
Oh.
Any of you guys see The Lion King? The Lion King was based on this the bare bone skeleton of this story. His uncle, you know, kills his brother and tries to take over the reign of his nephew.
Yes. I was thinking the action movie. Yes.
Oh, now way
Now,
over.
Yeah.
That's good. Oh, yeah.
No little
That makes
kids,
sense.
Mr. Tracy.
I don't think they attribute, when it came out, I don't think they attributed, their story to this account, so. Anyway, okay, who's next?
When news of what had befallen her beloved brother and husband reached Aset, she cut off a lock of her hair, put on a dress of mourning, and sobbed deeply at her husband's terrible misfortune. She then set out to find his body, asking everyone she encountered whether they had seen the casket. In due time, Aset came upon a group of children who confided that they had seen Set and his companions place the chest in the river. They also added that the casket had reached the coast of Byblos, Jordan, where a wave had gently set it within a clump of tamarisks. In a short time, the bush had flourished, developing into a massive tree concealing the chest within its branches. The king of that country, who marveled at the unusual size of the plant, had it cut down and its trunk installed as a supporting pillar of his palace.
Now, one correction, I believe Byblos was in present-day Lebanon rather than Jordan, right on the coast. And also, if any of you remember in Lion King, the female who acts as a confident advisor and the one that urges the young lion to retake, grow up, mature, and go back and take his
Nala.
Nala. Now, what animal was Nala? Do you remember?
She's lying.
She was a lion girlfriend.
Oh no, not his girlfriend. The other one that
Timon and Pumbaa?
the one that was carried the staff.
Oh,
Rafiki.
Rafiki.
Now what animal
He
was
was
Rafiki?
a baboon.
Baboon. Now that was his counselor,
Yes.
and it was a baboon. And that was I just realized that that's another parallel because Jehudi played that role to Heru, and one of the symbols of Jehudi, besides the ibis bird, is the baboon. Just the curse. So.
All our stuff.
Okay. And that's one of the attributes of the baboon that is as being having a spiritual significance is because the baboons before the sun rises they're up early and they start making all this chatter and rising, lifting their hands as if worshiping, knowing that announcing that the sun is getting ready to rise. Yeah. So. Anyway, okay. Well, the pieces start coming together as we proceed, right? Okay, next. Who'd like to be the next? Okay, Sister Amina.
So Aset also discovered the Nebuchadnezzar had been in love with Asar and had tricked him into bed with her. They had given birth to a child, fearing the wrath of her husband. Set left the infant exposed to the elements, thinking it would soon perish. However, Aset, with the aid of dogs, sought and rescued the deserted infant. She named him Inpur,
Either one.
the one who returns, and decided to raise him as her guardian and constant companion. Continuing the search for Asar's body, Aset journeyed to the land where his coffin had come to rest. While seated at a spring and sobbing gently, the handmaidens of Astarte
two quick things. First of all, Astarte. Astarte is the goddess of the Near East, and from region to region, her name changed. In one area, she's known as Ashtoreth. There in Byblos, or Persia, Lebanon, she was Astarte. Another place she was known as Ishtar. And anybody know what name her manifestation of that name manifested across present day language? That's where we get the term Easter. It comes from her name, and it found its way into the Bible. But that was,
Esther?
huh?
As
And
Esther?
and Esther, Esther also. They're all named, it all comes from the same name.
She's the goddess of
I had those notes, I'd have to dig it up, but anyway, yeah, that's how we got it. But Easter, when it got into the New Testament, whoever the translators were, or whoever the original religious authorities were still influenced by the old religion. And so you can't say that it was a strict demarcation between the new religion and the old, because there's elements of, of names and practices in the text that are not Christian or not strictly Hebrew. And one instance is one of the monks, the Hebrew monks, is named after Tammuz, who was the god of the son of Nimrod, who was presented as an evil person in the Old Testament. But Tammuz was his son, and there's a month named after him by the Hebrews, because there was still, like I said, some overlap. Anyway, Ampu. Now, their offspring. Now, Set is, her name is the eye of the throne, or the eye of the seat. Let me see, or is it Asar who's the eye of the seat? Well, yeah, I think he is the eye of the seat, eye of the throne, and she is the seat. I believe that's it. So we can see their connection. And well, what's being conveyed by their relationship between Nebuchadnezzar and Asar, I'm still working on that. But her name means the lady of the house, or the lady of the temple, or the throne room. So let's just put lady of the house. Like I said, I'm still trying to work out what's the message in that, what is being conveyed. And so their offspring is Ampu. And Ampu means the one who returns.
Set and Nebuchadnezzar, the offspring.
It's supposed to be secretly Asar
Asar
and
and
Nebuchadnezzar.
Barbara, wasn't there a story about how Set was impotent, like couldn't have children?
I think I've heard that before too. Well, I think that's later, because in battle, Heru, cuts off his custody. So that may have been afterwards, but who returns?
Yeah, that comes later.
Yeah. So, Ampu, the one who returned. Then there's the jackal, right? And a jackal, the qualities of jackal is that being able, they said if you took a jackal out into the wilderness 30, 50 miles away, that he can find his way back home in the dark. Because his senses are that keen, and his awareness is that keen. And also that Ampu becomes the patron or the leader of the priesthood. So it's the priesthood who assists Set in finding Asar and reassembling his body. Okay? because a jackal will find carrion or a bone and bury it, and so that it'll be preserved for a later time, is why he presides over funerary rituals and mummification. Okay? All right, so I think we're ready to move on. Who's next?
I'll go ahead.
Mhm.
It is written in us,
Oh, sorry, can I ask a quick question? You
Mhm.
said jackal buries the food and finds it later. Does it know, it knows
It
where?
remembers where it put it.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
it is written that I said, did not feed the child milk from her breast, but gave it her finger to suck. Furthermore, at night, she would place the infant in a fire to burn away its mortal aspects. She would then turn herself into a hawk and excitedly flit around the room, moaning in grief at the whereabouts of her husband. One night, Queen Astarte came upon this strange scene and emitted such a loud cry of alarm that it deprived the child of his immortality. Aset's magical powers having been revealed, she requested and was granted the pillar housing her husband's corpse. She then carefully cut away the tree trunk enclosing it and wrapped the pieces in a linen cloth that had been generously anointed with her perfume. She entrusted these to the royal couple as an expression of her gratitude, from which act the pillar, the jet, became an object of veneration in that country. The Nectarette then flung herself upon the now exposed casket with such a dreadful cry that Astarte's infant son was frightened out of his life. Aset then placed the coffin aboard ship and set out for a secluded harbor, taking Astarte's remaining son with her. When the sea on which they sailed threw up a treacherous tempest, Aset used her magic to completely dry up its water.
Okay.
Magic. Wow.
High drama, huh?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so this is the Jed pillar, which is part of the Meta Netter, we should be familiar with, the Jed. And how is it, when we use it symbolically in the Meta Netter now, what is it used to convey? Stability, firmness, what's another word I want to use?
Steadfastness.
That you could, yeah. My vocabulary is deserting me right now. But, yes, the main idea is stability. So, and it's supposed to be one of the attributes of a ruler or a pharaoh. He should have operating in his rule. Is stability. The other one is the wasp. So you've seen some of the amulets that have the jed is combined with a wasp scepter and the ankh. You know, life, stability, and the wasp indicates authority. Right? All right. Okay, we're on three. Okay, next one. Who would like to read?
Finally, Aset reached the desert-like harbor where she thought she could find privacy. Then she opened the chest, caressed the face of her husband, and profusely wept. Upon noticing that the boy was secretly witnessing her despair, she cast him such a look that he too died of fright. She then hid the casket bearing Asir's body in a forest where she thought Set would not find it. However, one night when Set was out hunting wild pigs by the light of the moon, he accidentally discovered the body and ripped it into 14 pieces, which he scattered throughout Kemet. Undaunted, Aset traveled the country to recover the remains, which her guardian Impu reassembled which had been thrown into the Nile, where it was consumed by,
Oxyrhynchus or Oxyrhynchus.
by those fishes. She therefore replaced it with a properly consecrated replica which she fashioned from wood. Thereupon the Negeret again transformed herself into a hawk and hovered above the wood member, fanned the breath of life into the still ithyphalic body of her husband. She then drew from him the life-giving fluid from which Heru, son of Aset and Asir was born. All right, well now that's interesting.
Now, I have to apologize because I fully intended to bring my laptop and my flash drive to show you some of the pictures I took from the temple at Abydos or Abju, which is Asar's temple. And in it, in the interior, they have the different scenes of this paragraph where it depicts a set, and in these scenes, it's she's assisted in the ritual of reviving him. I think it's by Sebek or someone else. And as they're, the Hekar is going forth, Asar is lying there dead, prostrated. But then in the next scene, you see him begin to revivify, and he reaches his hand up to his head as he starts to stir. And then it shows his followers, which the Arab Bedouins have with the chisel chipped off. And then it shows her transforming into a kite or a small hawk and hovering over him and to be impregnated. And so it's very interesting to see, how that's portrayed. But like I said,
No, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
In the museum of, remember the sister that crossed over, that used to do the readings that were on television? But anyway, in her shop, Brother Ali has a picture, and it had a picture of Asar.
Oh.
Yes, Carol.
Yes,
And-
yes,
and-
yes, yes,
and
yes,
she's
yes.
hovering, she's over him.
Yeah.
And then these, just, it's spewing, it's
Uh-huh.
like, it is,
The life-
oh, the
life-giving,
most
yeah.
beautiful thing
Right,
I
right.
have ever seen.
Right.
He's there and she's over him, and then they have these sparks that are just coming from. I mean, 'cause she definitely has some magic. I mean, we got magic, but
Yeah,
the sister
yeah.
had magic.
And you can understand why during libation, we sometimes, when we mention her name, we say great of Hekar, because
Yes.
she exemplifies Hekar.
What does the word ithyphalic mean?
It means,
Ithy
in its
doesn't-
erect phallus, it refers to images shown within the erect phallus, like men is supposed to represent the vitality and strength of a king to carry out his rule. So if they show him with the erect phallus, that means,
But doesn't the word ithy mean fish?
it may be some relationship. I'll have to go back and look that up.
And that would make sense since the fish.
That's
ate
fish.
it.
Yeah.
I'm curious, I noticed that in the narrative, I know we haven't gotten to the end,
Mhm.
but I did read to the end. There's never a mention of, cats, I never hear cats mentioned in anything, but cats are given a very, it said that cats have this sacred
Yeah,
place,
yeah.
but I never hear
I don't
about
know if
cats
it's
in
in,
any of these narratives.
And I believe the cat are usually in narratives that come from the northern part of Kemet.
Okay.
But if I remember well, I believe they're from like lower Kemet. Usually the cat plays a prominent part.
There's fish and dogs.
You said lower?
Lower Kemet. Lower is
Right.
north.
Right.
And does this fish appear anywhere else, like as a glyph or anywhere else? Because he has kind of an important role.
Yeah, I don't know. There's one other thing I wanted to mention. And slipped by me. Anyway,
where she raised him in strict secrecy. Heru grew to be a strong, agile man who was bent on avenging his father's murder. Eventually, he confronted his uncle in a battle that lasted 3 days and 3 nights, others say 8 years. In one fearsome episode, Seth damaged one of Heru's eyes by throwing pills into it, and Heru responded by ripping off Seth's head. Fighting first in human form, they later stood against each other as huge, ferocious bears. On the last night, Heru overwhelmed Seth, delivering him in chains to Aset for her to decide her brother's fate. However, Aset took pity on Seth and set him free. That's a lot of Seth in that sentence. This so angered Heru that he confronted his mother and, roughly placing his hands on her, ripped off the royal headdress she wore. Some say he removed her head. Jehudi, seeing this, quickly replaced it with another bearing the horns of a cow. This is how Heru, mistress of the sky, came into being.
Okay. So, what can we say about that? Other than Heru has a fierceness about him, I would say. But in it, a set we could see, even though Set is totally deserving of punishment, she represents forgiveness and balance, and trying to keep balance between the disputing elements and parts. Yes.
I always had a question about why a set had set in her name. You know, and then this piece right here is showing that she's taking pity on him.
Yeah.
You
Maybe.
know, I wonder if there's a connection.
I'll go back and look it up. I can't recall if there's a connection in meaning. But I'll check that out. Let's see. All right, now, before I go on, does anybody know, you can name the city that's named after Aset? Anybody? Mm-hmm. Famous city? Paris.
Oh.
For Isis. Because her worship had extended all the way into Europe for centuries, you know, even into the Christian era, before they finally eradicated.
And they said the Notre Dame was built on
On-
an old temple.
Okay, yeah, that's right. All right, I think, so we got one more paragraph.
Defeated in battle, Set now turned to a new strategy. He pleaded his case before the court of Ra, alleging that Heru had been illegitimately conceived and was therefore undeserving of the right to inherit the throne. However, the assembled Neteru decided in favor of Heru, granting him his rightful inheritance. They placed Set in charge of storms, thunder, and other calamities, responsibilities that suited his natural predisposition. That's smart. In addition, he was required to stand guard at the front of the boat of Ra, protecting it from encroachment by the evil serpent Akhet. Asir descended into the underworld, where he was visited by Heru, who granted him eternal life using his restored eye. Furthermore, tradition has it that upon achieving immortality, Asar became judge of the living and the dead, lord of the hall of truth, and one of the most revered ancestors of all Kemet.
Okay. So Heru takes his rightful place. The Neteru award him as being the rightful successor to the Paraship, and from then on, he is considered the patron of every Parah that arrives. You know, if you were a Parah, you were operating in the office of Heru. Yeah, or the embodiment. That's a good word for it. And that is a reason why, in my class on the African origins of modern religion, when we come and we deal with that scene at the Luxor temple or the Pet Receipt, there's the Annunciation scene. And and the Annunciation scene depicts the mother of Amenhotep III being greeted by there's 4 panels. In the first scene, she's greeted by Jehuti, who announces that she will give birth, and she's referred to as a Virgin Mother. And then the next scene is Jehuti hands her the Ankh or life, imparting life into her. So it can be said that God is making her pregnant, or putting the life into her. And then there's another scene where there's the 3 kings or 3 magi in the background. Everybody's praising and worshiping. And then when she's on the birth stool, and then the last scene, you know, there's rejoicing and praising for the birth of the child of the Virgin. And this is 1,800 years before the birth of Jesus. And not only that, she wasn't the first to have that scene. That was just what we have that has come down to it. But it was a common passion play or ritual that all the mothers of potential pharaohs had done previous to her, going back to before the first dynasty, to make that connection between their child and Heru and Aset. You know, all the queens are playing the role of Aset in that ritual. Yes.
I was thinking about the symbolism of the fish.
Yes.
And how that goes back to another story
Yeah.
of, you
Yeah.
know.
The fish has more to do with the precession of equinox. And that at the time of Jesus' birth, that we were moving into the age of Pisces
With the fish.
Yeah,
And
the fish.
the water.
Right. And we were passing out of the age of the Lamb, because in the precession of the equinoxes or the great year, it moves in reverse to our normal astrological cycle. You know, regularly, it's, you know, on a yearly cycle, it goes forward, but in the well, you want to go back to what the precession is based on? It is based on the fact that the Earth, if you can imagine a rod going through it, wobbles. It doesn't spin, you know, normally like this. It makes a little wobblige. So if they had the pins going through it, you can see it making a little wobble, and it makes an ellipse. You could draw an ellipse into the sky or to the heavens. And in that ellipse is the astrological circle, but it's going in the opposite direction, and the total time it takes from point 1 to go all the way around to another is 26,000 years. And each decan or house is about, I think, 1,600 years or 1,300 years. So an age is around 1,300 years. Now, like I said, at that point, we were moving into the age of the fishes, coming out of the age of the ram or the lamb. If you look at the Hebrew history, that's what a major part of their worship was worshiping, was sacrificing the lamb, right, or sheep. And then if you go back to the time of Moses, that coincided with another transformation, where we were going from the bull to the lamb. And when they were out in the wilderness, and Moses was supposedly up in the mount receiving the law, and he came back and found that they were still worshiping the golden calf or the golden bull, there was anger because they were supposed to be moving into another age. That's what was at the root of the people's violation. So,
And where are we now?
we're on the verge of Aquarius, the water bearer. And if you remember, as we were moving into the age of fishes, supposedly at the birth of Jesus, in their telling, because there's all kind of stuff that they're pulling and drawing from to assemble this narrative that we have in the Bible. And in it, when Jesus is about to be crucified the day before, he tells them to go and find a room for him so they can have the Last Supper. And then there's a interjection of a statement in there that doesn't make any sense or have any relationship to anything else in there. When he tells them, you'll see a man standing carrying a vessel of water, or bearing a vessel of water, and then go past him to find out where we could have this room. Well, that was a precursor or a hint as to what would be the coming age after this one, which would be the age of Aquarius, the water bearer.
Because the fish in Yoruba is the mother of the oceans. Is
Mhm.
a symbol as a fish.
Mhm.
So the fish and the water and all that
Yeah.
is
So
symbolic.
if we examine and we dig into it further, like I said, we're just scratching the surface.
I know.
But if we dig into this thing, we'll find connections throughout, and that people have been borrowing and
Yeah,
assembling
it's all
things
connected.
for centuries. Yeah. Not just the Christians, not just the Hebrews, but everybody. Yeah. Okay. I got off. Oh, sorry about that. Now, what do we want to? What is the role of narratives, spiritual narratives, ancient narratives? Is that the overall point is that they convey a moral lesson and a social, a lesson in social order that people are to be ruled by, that should be governed by, and a moral lesson.
And social.
And wait. That's one and two. Lessons on social order, or how do we keep our society together? And I wanted to read a quotation. It's from this book, Ritual, by Malidoma Some. And he had a quote in here. I can't remember, find it to get the rest of it, but it starts out saying that every person is sent to this outpost called Earth to work on a project that is intended to keep this cosmic order healthy. That's our role in making this travail on Earth. Is working on some project, no matter how small or how large, to keep the cosmic order healthy. That's what we should be about.
This time around.
Yeah.
You said that's what the book was Ritual?
Yeah,
Ritual.
because I think there are other things.
Yeah.
You know how they say that
Yeah.
you'll keep coming back
Yeah.
when you get it right.
Yeah, exactly.
And
You
I
may be
yeah.
given a very different project next time.
Exactly.
He was just in town.
What? Why did you let me know?
Was it in an app Phantom Your Christmas letter?
I missed it, I'm sorry. Okay, so that's what we should be focusing on. And as it relates to us now, and usually these stories involve conflict and tension in order to get to the point where the moral law or social law or ma'at can be clearly stated that this is what we should be doing, because we have this example of how these how this
I'm sorry, I was going to.
Oh, get right.
how this
It's on.
we have this example of how things can get into disarray when Isfet is interjected or enters in. So, and we see that, and when Isfet enters in, we have this conflict, we have this tension before things are worked out. And the main protagonist in this, even though Asar is the main character in it, Aset is the protagonist in it, because she has the courage that after going through the shock of this tragedy and this crime against her husband and her brother and her king, that she goes through a period of temporary paralysis, as we all go through when something terrible happens, and a period of inaction, you know, because we're mourning and can't believe what has happened. But she has the courage and the foresight and the wherewithal to recognize, you know, I have to get myself together. This is what has to be done in order to set things back in order, and then in the process, she collects his body parts, which means, you know, as we apply it to our lives, all that the scattered things that are, you know, have been diffused by considerations and all the outside influences, pulling it back together, reassembling it, and breathing life. Yes.
So I want to add that, in studying the, acupuncture techniques, Chinese medicine,
Mhm.
you have to know the 14 organs. And in my work, I have to focus on helping people to maintain balance in their health and wellness on working in those 14 channels.
Okay.
Those 14 channels are always the point. In the 14 channels, you have from 1 to maybe 80 some odd points where they put needles. As I work, I'm working those channels constantly to move the radicals and the toxins, to maintain, to help that person maintain the balance. I think it's ironic that there were 14 pieces there. And the Asians, of course, we know that they borrowed quite a bit of information, even medicine.
Right.
As they moved back into Asia, they took this information and manifested it throughout the yin and the yang, making it necessary to be balanced in the body.
We're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Borrow. You borrow, so
We've
you
got
get it back.
14.
Well, you acknowledge where you got it.
What did
We've been
you
over
say?
here saying, why is everybody?
She said when you borrow.
Borrow. We trying to be polite.
Yes, yes. So I'm looking at that concept of taking it back.
That's very interesting.
But we have 14 major organs
Yeah.
that have to be nurtured. And
Yes.
not with vitamins, but with minerals.
Right.
That's what those organs are made up of. But I'm still trying to piece together, but yeah,
Oh, that's very good.
it is. So
Wow.
And another thing, I'll let you go, brother, but about 20 years ago, I found a picture, and I'm still trying to relocate it, because it would be a good example on the antiquity of the African race and how we populated the world. But it is a picture from the sister, and I believe she's in Kenya, somewhere in that region. And it is a picture of a sister smiling. And if you erased her coal black skin, she would look exactly like a Chinese person. Exactly, you know.
Would you find
You
it
know.
to be?
Anyway, what was your point, Brother Greg?
Yeah, I was just wanting maybe to like revisit this is like real important concepts of like not giving up. Because things
Yeah.
seem like they're not
Yeah.
gonna go right.
Despair would have taken over.
Exactly, and it's especially for those of us who are descendants of Africans in this hemisphere. You know, one thing I've always felt, you know, about reading narratives and things like this, and just like being with that, that these people, you know, the captives had such a strong moral base in not giving up. Not, you know, don't look good today, but it's gonna be better tomorrow.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Right.
So in terms of a moral lesson, I think that like that's very important. The other thing is, even with, you know, the whole notion of like transition, you know, even this like 28 days or you know, 28 years that, you know, just like the moon does.
Go through its cycle.
Exactly. And then it's another cycle that's gonna take place that might be ruled by like Set or Istet or whatever. That's only a cycle too.
Right.
But you got to be around in order to get the benefits that come after that cycle, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So it's, you know, that's the inspiration in it.
And if we look at the record, if you have this book, or any book that had, you could have a graph on the progression of the dynasty. And and it relates to the next one. We're not going to have time to get to Kunam Pu, but it coincides with one of the intermediate periods. There's periods of greatness in Kemet, and then it will go through a period of chaos, which is called the intermediate period, and then someone would spur and call everybody back to the old way. And consistently, the Renaissance or the rebirth would come from the south, or the upper Kemet, to where they originated, So, yeah.
Can I ask a question about the dynasty?
Yeah.
So, is there, so ancient Egyptian literature is where we're told the content for the Husia sort of was derived from. And there's a chronological table at the beginning.
Right.
The time frame given for the fifth dynasty in this book is 2450 through 2300. But here for the fifth dynasty it says 2565 through 2420. So
There's differences of opinion. Some people, Manetho is, a lot of people adhere to his chronological table. Other people disagree. They give a different age. So, there is some difference of opinion. And you just have to use your wisdom and study and intellect and insight as to what you want to settle on.
So, I'm sorry, the second part of my question was, since this came from Brother Davis, does he have a sort of
Table.
information around, how he arrived at his understanding of the timing?
He has a table in here, and I will see if he has sources down here. After class, I'll try to pull it out and let you see it and see if he cites the sources. Okay, so anyway, to boil it all down to a low gravy, as Aretha Franklin would say. The story is about disintegration.
Oh, and time check, we have 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Disintegration that led to reintegration. Okay. And I was thinking about this. So in this whole idea of our project being to maintain the cosmic order and promoting Ma'at and establishing the law, and there being a singular law, so you can see that there's a necessity for a standard single-minded law or rule of order in order to keep society in balance, in harmony, and going forward and continuing to develop. And I was thinking about all the chaos we see in the streets, the murder, the self-hatred, and you hear statements like, well, out here, we operate on a different law. Rule of the streets is a different law. And our whole task, and it seems almost like a despair-inducing situation like what Aset had to face. How do you overcome that? And how do you reintroduce the necessity and the respect and rule for Ma'at in the minds and hearts of our people in the street? And because you have to consider that under the rule of law that was instituted in this particular country, based on white supremacy coming out of slavery, it wasn't completely a righteous sense of many of our people a sense of powerlessness and negative self-image and negative self-worth. And so when these young brothers or young sisters come up with this new law of the streets, and you tell them, and from it they regain a sense of power, no matter how bad or negative it is. How do you get them to relinquish that sense of power in order to go forward? That's the only question I want to leave you with. If you have any commentary, you feel free.
I would agree, commentary, yeah. I think this is why I said didn't get rid of set.
Right.
Because, like the old people say, calm waters never a master sailor did make. You got to, if you believe you're gonna get through it, you're gonna get through it. It's only when you stop believing in the natural order of things that good will overcome evil that you get stuck in evil. You see what I'm saying? So whatever happens, you know, like Bob says, we know we will win because we are confident in the victory of good over evil. Of good over evil. Of good over evil. And that's it. That's all. It's just, you can't compromise on that. It's not that like Seth's gonna ever leave, but you got to
You got to sail through, push through.
and then let him take the helm of certain things that you know he's good at.
Right.
And then he will help you to get where you need to be.
A similar analogy is when we look at that picture of the boat of Ra sailing
That's what I'm
through the
talking
daytime and through the night. It's all swimming around the boat is that serpent Apep, and Apep represents that resistance to the progress of the boat or the entry. So Apep's not going nowhere. That's not going nowhere.
Right.
But we have to continue
Anyway.
making the journey.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, I better stop there. I don't know how we're going to handle doing this. You're going to be teaching next week, right?
You know what, there's an assignment because, so there's an assignment and I'll facilitate a conversation around the assignment that will be given. So,
Okay.
I have to double check and see what that assignment is, let's talk about that, but I'll email it to everyone. So
Okay.
that people will review the content and then I'll facilitate a conversation.
Okay. If it could be integrated with Kunanuk, you can, blend it and, see what we come up with.